Hey everyone, this is Module 2B about motor behavior and which aspects motor behavior I believe is most impactful. To start, motor behavior is defined as a study of how motor skills are learned, controlled, and developed, which focus on the what, how, and how much someone should practice and experience physical activity. More exactly, with motor control, Jenna Gottlieb describes motor control as interactions between the brain and the rest of the body with the environment to create a goal directed movement. This aspect of motor behavior may be most impactful as motor control deals with the motor skills, whether poor or highly advanced skills, whereas motor learning covers the aspect of learning how to do a certain skill and make that automatic, and motor development only covers of how to make a skill from poor to highly skilled. Essentially, motor control is the key component in any action. And so next we'll talk about deeper of what motor control is and why it is so important. So a great example of motor control is the challenge of just catching a ball. The person has to anticipate the future position of the ball while moving into the correct position so they do not miss the ball, while at the same time understanding the feedback that's going on in their body and in the changing environment of the ball coming towards them. All this requires a sensory motor feedback, which is the process of becoming aware of sensory stimuli and using that information to influence an action at different stages. So sensory feedback can be broken out into two categories, typically with open loop control and closed loop control. Open loop control is a subconscious control that does not use or reference feedback. So characteristically, these actions are ballistic skills that can be altered if their unpredictable change arise and regarded as a first level motor control. So example, this would be like someone throwing a dart. When they're having the action of throwing that dart, they can't change of what's going on since they're already in motion. That action is already being taken place, and so that subconscious movement can't be changed. Um, a closed loop control, on the other hand, is almost the exact opposite. The system adjusts itself to different conditions by feeding output information back into your brain as input. So closed loop is a little bit more complex compared to an open loop concept, considering that it has, I guess, two different categories within itself. Um, it can be also kind of known as a second and third level motor control. So level two refers to the perceptual trace, meaning a memory trace triggers a response. The internal feedback gathers information to execute that skill, and corrections are made and adjustments are stored for future reference. So an example of like a level two motor control would be like a gymnast on a balance beam. If they feel like they're losing their balance, they know from their stored memory from previous experiences how to quickly adjust their body to retain that balance. And any new adjustments that were needed for that time that they're trying to keep their balance, that new information is then stored for future reference. Um, so then the third level or third motor unit level of closed loop is similar to the level two control. However, this process is a little bit longer due to performance being relayed to the brain, with the process involving conscious thought and internal feedback. So this is kind of explains the example about catching a ball. This with level three kind of explaining how that is about the ever changing environment of yourself, the ball, and understanding that feedback from you and the ball. So great thing about motor control is you can also train it, just like motor learning or just like motor development. It can be trained just not for new skills, but to eliminate and manage pain in the body. For example, managing low back pain. So Dr. Hides and others looked at four strategies to manage low back pain, which one of those was being motor control training. And the purpose of motor control training is to identify and modify suboptimal features of motor control, such as alignments, movements, and muscle activation with integration into function. So during this study, the motor control exercises, such as therapeutic exercises to modify specific motor control features for a broad, multidimensional view incorporating psychosocial aspects of low back pain. So the research found that motor control training reduced excessive contractions of the oblique and turnus abdominis muscles as a use for protection while reducing low back pain. So basically, they they used a therapeutic motor control training stimuli to kind of reduce the contractions that was going on in the oblique muscles because they were firing a little bit more heavily because of the low back pain. This strategy helped reduce the contractions of those muscles, and at the same time, it helped reduce some of that back pain. Just kind of in a similar or easier way to explain it. So the researchers also concluded that motor training can also be a very effective strategy to manage back pain, as it can be achieved just in one session too. So it's pretty cost effective and very timely type of strategy. So in conclusion, with motor control being a key component in all movements of varying skills and its ability to train to combat improper bodily functions, motor control can be a very impactful part of motor behavior.